Many thanks to the UK Black Cards YouTube channel for giving me permission to use their fantastic certification black cards in this video. Hi and welcome to our video about Bond and the BBFC. The BBFC being the British Board of Film Classification. Before I start, this is not a BBFC bashing video. I welcome the work BBFC does as a parent, and I find the classifications really useful when planning either watching movies on TV or on streaming services or on Blu-ray and DVD, or taking my son to the cinema. However, Bond and the BBFC have got an interesting relationship which unexpectedly was thrown up this year, and I've put a link to that video in this video where I had a bit of a licensing query with BBFC regarding Diamonds Are Forever, which was re-released in 2022. But just to put this video in context, in 1909 was the first Cinematograph Act, which said that all cinemas, and this was mainly for fire safety, all cinemas had to be licensed by the local authority. And films being shown at the cinema needed to be certified. Now, to save the local authority certifying every film, the BBFC, which was then the British Board of Film Censors, was founded. It much later became the British Board of Film Classification, but we'll just call it BBFC for the purpose of this video. So it was formed in 1912 to certify and classify films on behalf of local authorities. Certification progressed in 1952 with Cinematograph Act 1952, which prohibited children seeing some types of films which are an X rating. We're now going to look at how the BBFC, a quick history behind it, and then just look at how some of the Bond classifications have changed through times. Yes, the certs on Bond films have changed over the years. Now, whether that's a good thing, whether that's a bad thing, and there are different versions out and about of different Bond films that I can watch. For example, Casino Royale on Blu-ray is a 15, but on the DVD I own, it's a 12, and they're slightly different, and there has been some edits and cuts over the years, so we're going to look at the history of that specifically with Bond films, but first a brief history of BBFC classifications. So as I've said, film ratings were introduced in 1913, and so no film would be certified that was not clean and wholesome. The next big change was in 1951, where an X rating came on. In between 1930 and 1957, there was an H rating for horrific, but X incorporated H, and X-rated films were for people over 16. U meant universal, A meant a film was more suitable for adults, and X was no admittance under 16 years of age. With the Bond films, from Dr. No through to From Her Majesty's Secret Service, all these were A-rated using this system. The system changed in 1970, where U remained universal, but A was advisory, and parents were cautioned that a film may be unsuitable for young children. A new categorisation of AA was for no admission to children under 14 years of age, and this caused me problems back in the late 70s when I wanted to watch Every Which Way You Can, and we've made a video about this, and I'll include the link to that video in this video. For X, the age limit was raised from 16 to 18 years of age. And in terms of Bond films that were A-rated, Diamonds Are Forever through to For Your Eyes Only. The system changed again in 1982 for cinemas. U remains, but A becomes PG, parental guidance, and this was for general viewing, with some scenes may be unsuitable for younger children. AA, which was confusing, became 15, which was no persons under the age of 15 were to be admitted, and X became 18, again, no persons under the age of 18 to be admitted. There was a new category, though, of R18 restricted, and these were for films containing more explicit sexual depictions. Under this rating system, only one Bond film was released, and that was Octopussy. In 1984, the BBFC changed its name from the British Board of Film Censors to the British Board of Film Classification. Also, in 1984, the Video Recordings Act came out, and this was to reflect that classification plays a far greater part of BBFC's work than pure censorship. So BBFC, under the Video Recording Act 1984, were chosen as the authority who would certify home video releases. And local authorities do not have the same powers as cinema releases as they do home recordings. There was another change in 1985 where the rating systems were split. You had ratings for cinema and you also had ratings for home video. And there was a new category of UC, which is a U film particularly suitable for unsupervised children. There were different logos in 1985 for cinemas and for home release. And Bond films that were in this round of certification were A View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, and Licence to Kill, the first Bond film that will be a 15 certificate. Licence to Kill is a problematic Bond film in terms of certification. When it was first submitted to the BBFC, the story is that they said that it may be considered an 18 certificate. Just think that, Licence to Kill, an 18 certificate. And it may be a 15 with cuts, or it may be a 15 in its current form. However, later on in the release year in 1989, BBFC had been looking at a new 12 certificate, and did Eon want to wait and look at the 12 certificate with cuts? Eon didn't, and it was agreed to go ahead as a 15 certificate. 1989 produced another certification, which was 12, and in the cinema, no persons under the age of 12 would be admitted, and this in 1994 applied to home videos, which a 12 certificate meant that video was only suitable for persons 12 and under. The Bond films of this era were all 12s, namely GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World Is Not Enough. In 2002, the two systems, one for cinema releases, one for home video, were merged. So from now on, all certifications applied to both film and video, with the 12A certificate specifically referring to cinema releases, where no person under the age of 12 may see a 12A film in a cinema unless accompanied by an adult. And R18 were for films restricted to distribution in licensed premises where nobody under the age of 18 is to be admitted. Never been to one of those premises, never actually seen an R18 film, so from now on in this categorisation, we're not going to talk about it because it doesn't apply to Bond. So, from 2002 onwards, Die Another Day, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall and Spectre were all 12A releases. Which brings us up to the latest round of certifications where the logos were simplified. They're the same, but 12A is for cinemas only and 12 is for home viewing. And under this system, the only Bond film that was released was No Time to Die. Let's recap now and just put into context all of the films that BBFC have certified from 2003 to when they released the last set of reports for the 2021 financial year. The most popular film certification is actually 15, followed by 12A. which I find quite surprising. I would have said PG and 12A were the most popular, but looking at the statistics, the most popular certification in terms of films certified by BBFC were 15 certificates. Recapping now, Bond films released at the cinema that were either A PG, with Dr. No, right through to The Living Daylights. And all these are currently a PG rating for home release, with the exception of Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever in 2012 was recertified from a PG for home release and 12. Now, if you've seen in the video I made, I'll put a link to this video. I wanted to take my son, who's under 12, to take Diamonds Are Forever. It was listed at 12, and View Cinema said he couldn't come in. However, when I challenged it, I said 12 didn't apply to a cinema release. It should have been a 12A. The later said, yes, we're now treating 12 and 12As the same. In 2012, the home release for physical media or video demand and streaming was resubmitted to BBFC, and it was upgraded, reclassified from a PG to a 12, which is interesting. The BBFC have said that scenes of sexual violence, such as when Bond strangles Marie with her bikini top and certain language in it, that's what warranted the move from a PG to 12. As it stands, the only Bond film that has ever been a 15 on cinema release was Licence to Kill, and it remains a 15 to this day. However, the versions over time on home video have varied greatly. I've got a copy of the original VHS release, and I'm going to compare that to the current Blu-ray release. Both are 15, but just look at this. Look at how much was cut for home video release.
Your escapades are getting more creative.
Por favor, Franz.
Not a word.
And I remember watching Licence to Kill on Sky Television, and it was cut even further, and it's still even more cut if it's shown on, for example, ITV. So 12 certificates, GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World's Not Enough were released at cinema as a 12, and were 12 on home video. But out of these, only Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough is still a 12 certificate. GoldenEye has been recertified from a 12 to a 15. On reading up about this, there were certain very small cuts made to GoldenEye on the initial release, and in 2012, when the current Blu-rays were released by Odeon, they recertified it in their completely uncut form, and BBFC recertified them as a 15. And Die Another Day onwards were released at the cinema as a 12A. All were initially released on home video as a 12, but Casino Royale has subsequently been re-released as a 15 for home video. Originally released on home video as a 12, Casino Royale was resubmitted for the Blu-ray release in 2012, and it was actually moved up to a 15. It was a 15 because some very slight cuts made to the original release by BBFC were taken out, and the uncensored version was released, and it became a 15. And when we all know certain scenes from Casino Royale that do warrant a 15 certificates, I think we'd all agree with that. It's been fantastic in 2022, as all of the Bond films are being re-released at the cinema. But this has thrown up some slight confusion on my part. Dr. No through to The Living Daylights were all re-released as a PG, with the exception of Diamonds Are Forever, which at one cinema was a PG and at another cinema was re-released as a 12. Now, I made a video not too long ago regarding me trying to take my son, who's under 12, to see Diamonds Are Forever. And I'll put a link to the video in this video. To cut a long story short, View said he couldn't come in because he was under 12, and I challenged them and said 12 doesn't exist for cinema releases, it should be a 12A. And View seem to have changed their policy regarding this and say now that they treat 12 the same as a 12A. I actually contacted BBFC regarding this, and they actually said the last time Diamonds Are Forever was certified for cinema release was 1971, and it's still technically an A certificate for cinema release. And View and Odeon have continued to have slightly different certifications. For example, Die Another Day, it's a 12 at View, which is incorrect, and it's a 12A at Odeon. And here you can see proof of that. Die Another Day re-release at View 12, Odeon Switch Island 12A. What is more concerning though is Casino Royale. View actually classify it as a 15, whereas Odeon classify it as a 12A. So Odeon are referring back to the original 2006 cinema certification, and View are looking at the home release certification. So this makes 3 Bond films for cinema release now on a 15 certificate at certain cinemas, with No Time to Die still being a 12A. What is interesting, I think, for these 2022 UK Bond re-releases is that neither at View or Odeon I've seen a BBFC black card. At View, the movie just starts, and at Odeon, there's been a rather shaky version of either a PG rating or a 15 rating, but just the certification logo on the screen, not as a black card, which I find really strange. I'm not going to get into the politics of this. BBFC actually said to me in an email that the local authority may be certifying these films. I very much doubt it, and I think it's just a little bit of confusion with old releases, with, as I've said, still having some very old cinema certification that wouldn't translate to current day. Thanks for watching our video, hope you found it interesting. The BBFC, I think, do a good job. Yes, sometimes we might disagree with some of the classifications, but they are independent, they are funded by the film industry, and I do think they're well-meaning and probably less dictatorial as some of the periods in the past. So I welcome the fact that films in the UK are independently classified for my child, and I hope, if you've got children, you use those classifications as well. In addition to that, I find the Internet Movie Database really helpful because they've got the parents' guide. So, for example, would I take my son to see Top Gear Maverick? I have a look at it and it tells me what level of swearing's in it. Won't take him to it because I try and not show him films with swearing in. And that's the problem I have with No Time to Die. M dropping the F-bomb. No need for it. Absolutely no need for it in a Bond film. A Bond film doesn't have to be edgy or, but why? It just was so out of context. I would not expect Bernard Lee or Robert Brown to say the F word, and I swear like a trooper. Out of earshot of my son, I must add. And I just think Bond films should, whilst they're, as Fleming said, they're not meant for adolescents and schoolboys. His book's written for warm-blooded heterosexuals, whatever context you want to read that in. But it's interesting that how standards change. I know in the 80s, after the terrible Hungerford shootings in the UK, the BBFC really tightened up about film showing guns. So Rambo First Blood Part 2 was a 15, but Rambo 3 was an 18 because of the gun violence. Now they seem to have slackened off the use of bad language. Now, I don't really want to take my son to see a film where they're effing and jeffing in it, but that's my choice as a parent. And I think BBFC guides, especially with PG and 12A, they are helpful, but I do seek extra advice from the Internet Movie Database, which is useful for all sorts of research on the films that I watch and may want to watch. So thanks for watching this video. There's going to be plenty more Bond content to come. Take care, everybody, and hope to see you again soon.